The email arrived exactly 2 hours and 13 minutes after security escorted me from the building. I was still sitting in my car, rain hammering the windshield, when my phone buzzed. Emma's name on the screen used to bring joy. Now it delivered the killing blow. Dad, don't come to my wedding. You can watch the live stream. The Harringtons feel your presence would be inappropriate given recent events. I hope you understand. Emma, 23 years with the company. Gone. 25 years as her father. Apparently, also gone. My hands trembled as I read it again, searching for something I'd missed. Some hint of regret, some explanation that made sense. But there was nothing. Just cold efficiency, like I was a vendor being uninvited to a corporate event. The parking garage smelled of oil and exhaust. I could taste copper in my mouth. I'd been biting my cheek without realizing it. Through the concrete pillars, I watched employees leaving for lunch, avoiding eye contact with the man who used to be their director. 2 hours ago, I'd refused to sign off on layoffs that would destroy 200 families. Now, I was the one destroyed. My phone rang. Margaret, I assume you got Emma's message. My ex-wife's voice dripped satisfaction. It's for the best, really. The Harringtons are very particular about their guest list. William knows their family personally. They golf together at the club. I'm her father. The words came out raw, broken. Were you? When you worked those 3 jobs? When you missed her recitals for overtime? You made your choices, David. At least William never embarrassed her. The line went dead. I sat there, watching rain streak down the glass, remembering a little girl who used to run to me after school, arms wide, shouting, "Daddy!" like I was her whole world. That memory felt like it belonged to someone else now, someone who hadn't just lost everything in the span of a Tuesday afternoon. I pulled up my banking app with numb fingers. The wedding account I'd been building for 3 years, $20,000. Every overtime hour, every skipped lunch, every sacrifice scraped together for her special day. Money I'd promised her just last month when she'd called stressed about catering costs. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I'd said. "I've got you covered." Now I wasn't even worth a seat at the table. My phone buzzed again. A text from William. "Heard about your situation. These things happen in business. Best to accept your new reality with dignity. The Harringtons value discretion." I turned off the phone and closed my eyes. Somewhere in this city, Emma was probably trying on her dress one last time, surrounded by Margaret's friends, William's connections, and the Harringtons' approval. And I was sitting in a parking garage, deleted from her life as efficiently as my keycard had been deactivated. 23 years of integrity had cost me my job. 25 years of love had earned me a live stream link. The rain kept falling. I started the engine, not knowing where to go. For the first time in my life, I had nowhere to be. No one expecting me. The dashboard clock read 3:47 p.m. In 3 weeks, my daughter would walk down an aisle I'd never see, to music I'd never hear, past chairs where I'd never sit, all because I'd chosen conscience over profit, community over wealth. I drove out of the garage into the gray afternoon, leaving behind more than just a building. I was leaving behind the man who believed sacrifice always led to love, that integrity mattered more than connections, that being a good father meant giving everything. That man was as terminated as his employment. What emerged from that parking garage was someone else entirely, someone who had just learned the brutal mathematics of modern love. Principles plus poverty equals erasure. But I wasn't broken, not yet. I was just beginning to understand the game. The next 48 hours blurred into a nightmare of unanswered calls and calculated cruelty. I must have dialed Emma's number 50 times, each ring echoing in my empty apartment like a countdown to abandonment. Voicemail. Always voicemail. "Sweetheart, please. Just 5 minutes. Let me explain what really happened at work. Please." By the 20th message, I'd stopped trying to hide the desperation. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. Wednesday evening, Margaret finally answered her phone. I could hear restaurant noise, laughter, William's voice in the background ordering wine. "She won't talk to you, David. Accept it." "Why?" My voice cracked. What did I do that was so unforgivable? "Oh, please." The Harringtons did their research. Richard Harrington sits on 3 corporate boards. They know all about your situation. A director who gets himself fired for insubordination? Who can't even provide the wedding gift he promised? You think they want that associated with their son's wedding? I was protecting people's jobs. You were being self-righteous, as usual. Ice clinked in her glass. Emma's marrying into the Harringtons, David. The political family. The pharmaceutical fortune. The governor's personal friends. And you're what? Unemployed? Broke? You'd stand out like a stain on white silk. She's my daughter. No, she's my daughter. You were just the ATM. And now that's broken too. The restaurant laughter grew louder. Margaret lowered her voice, conspiratorial. Do you know what Emma said when the Harringtons asked about you? She said you were going through a transition, like you were some embarrassing disease she had to explain away. Each word was precisely chosen to wound. Margaret had always been surgical with cruelty. 25 years, I whispered. I sold my car to pay for her college, worked 3 jobs, never missed a payment. Ancient history. What matters is now. And now, you're a liability. William's already smoothing things over with the Harringtons. He'll walk her down the aisle. It'll look better, more appropriate. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, still holding the phone, remembering the night Emma was born, how I'd whispered promises to that tiny, perfect face. I'll always be here. I'll never let you down. Daddy loves you more than all the stars. Lies. All lies. Not because I'd broken them, but because they'd never mattered to begin with. I opened my laptop and checked my bank balance again. The wedding fund sat there, mocking me. $20,000 that represented every sacrifice, every, "No, I can't afford that," I'd told myself. Every dream deferred. I'd lived in this same one-bedroom apartment for 15 years rather than upgrade. Driven a 12-year-old Honda. Worn the same suits until they shined with age. All for Emma. All for this moment that I wouldn't even witness. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it to find a photo. Emma, at her dress fitting, radiant in white silk and pearls. Someone had drawn a red circle around empty space beside her with the caption, "This is where trash would stand." The Harrington's son, probably. Or one of his groomsmen. The number was already blocked when I tried to respond. I closed my eyes and saw her at 5, missing her front teeth, proudly showing me a drawing. "It's you and me, Daddy. See? We're holding hands." That little girl was gone. Had been gone for years, maybe. I just hadn't wanted to see it. The designer handbags from William. The subtle comments about my apartment. The way she'd started introducing me as my biological father at her college graduation. The signs had all been there. I'd just been too desperate to read them. Thursday morning brought an email from the wedding coordinator. Professional. Efficient. Per the bride's request, your Livestream access code is attached. Please do not attempt to share or redistribute. Any attempts to attend in person will be handled by security. Thank you for your understanding. Security. At my daughter's wedding. I forwarded it to my only remaining friend, Mike, with 2 words. I'm done. He called immediately. David, don't do anything. I'm not suicidal, Mike. I'm just done. Done believing that sacrifice means love. Done thinking integrity matters. Done pretending I'm anything more than what they see. An embarrassment. A failure. A stain. You stood up for 200 families. That matters. Does it? Those families don't know my name. They'll keep their jobs and never know why. Meanwhile, my own family just fired me. Silence. Because what could he say? That I was wrong? The evidence was overwhelming. That night, I sat in the dark, holding a photo from Emma's high school graduation. Both of us smiling, my arm around her shoulders. I wondered when exactly I'd become disposable. Was it gradual, like erosion? Or was there a moment when she looked at me and thought, not good enough? The wedding fund glowed on my laptop screen. $20,000. Not enough to buy my way into the Harringtons' world. More than enough to start over. But start what? I was 53, unemployed, and had just been security listed from my own daughter's wedding. Rock bottom felt higher than this. 1 week before the wedding, I made my last mistake. Hope. That insidious liar that whispers maybe if you just try once more. I put on my best suit, the one I'd saved for her wedding, and drove to the Riverside Country Club where they were holding the rehearsal dinner. The valet wouldn't even take my keys. "Private event, sir. Guest list only." "I'm Emma Mitchell's father." He checked his tablet twice, frowning. "I'm sorry, sir. You're specifically listed as excluded. I'm supposed to call security if—" I parked myself and walked to the entrance. Through the glass doors, I could see them all. The Harringtons holding court, their son Preston looking like a catalog model, Margaret playing the devoted mother, and Emma, my Emma, laughing at something William said, wearing diamonds I'd never be able to afford. She looked happy, radiant, complete, without me. "Sir, you need to leave." 2 security guards had materialized beside me, professional, firm, the kind the Harringtons would hire. "I just need 1 minute with my daughter." "Not happening." The larger one stepped forward. "We can do this easy or hard." Through the glass, Emma turned. Our eyes met across 20 feet of marble and circumstance. I saw the recognition hit. The flash of something. Guilt? Shame? For a heartbeat, I thought she'd come to me. Instead, she touched Preston's arm, whispered something, and turned her back. Deliberate. Final. The guards didn't need to escort me out. That turn did it for them. But I saw Preston smirk, saw William pat his shoulder, saw Margaret raise her champagne glass in a mock toast toward the door. I made it to my car before the shaking started. Not tears. Something deeper. A fracture in the foundation of who I thought I was. 25 years of, "Daddy, look what I made," and "You're my hero," crumbling into dust. The parking lot attendant watched me struggle with my keys. "You okay, sir?" "My daughter." I couldn't finish. He nodded slowly. "Mine stopped talking to me when I couldn't pay for grad school. Sometimes they forget we're human, too." I drove aimlessly until I found myself at the Overlook where I used to take Emma when she was small. We'd watch the sunset, and I'd tell her stories about the colors. The orange is dragon's breath. The purple is fairy dust. She'd believed every word then. My phone rang. "William, that was inappropriate, David. Watching my daughter get married is inappropriate." "You're not watching. You're stalking. The Harringtons are concerned. Preston's father has connections with judges. Restraining orders are easy to obtain. She's my— nothing. She's nothing to you anymore. Accept it. Move on. Maybe use this as a growth opportunity. Learn who you really are without the delusion that you matter." I know exactly who I am. My voice surprised me. Steady. Cold. I'm the man who chose 200 families over a corner office. I'm the man who sold everything to put her through school. I'm the man who never missed a birthday, a recital, a parent-teacher conference. I'm the man who loved her when she was nobody's ticket to high society. Touching. Also irrelevant. The wedding's in 7 days. Stay away, or lawyers get involved. He hung up. I sat there watching the city lights flicker like dying stars. Somewhere down there, factory workers were going home to their families, still employed because I'd refused to sign a piece of paper. They'd never know my name, never know what it cost, but they had their jobs, their dignity, their futures. I looked at my reflection in the darkened window. 53 years old, unemployed, disowned. But for the first time in weeks, I saw something else. Clarity. The man staring back wasn't broken. He was empty. And empty vessels can be filled with anything, even purpose. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through contacts. All those executives I'd known, all those connections. Most would avoid me now. Corporate leprosy is contagious. But a few had been where I was, forced out for refusing to play dirty, discarded for having spines. Marcus Chen, fired from Tectonics for whistleblowing, now ran a consulting firm helping other whistleblowers. Sarah Rodriguez, blacklisted for refusing to cook books, started her own forensic accounting service. James Wright, terminated for protecting his team, built a placement agency for difficult executives. One by one, I sent messages, simple, direct. "I'm out. They won. What's next?" The responses came within hours. Phone calls, offers to meet. Not sympathy, empathy. from people who'd been crucified for their integrity and risen anyway. The first rule, Marcus told me over coffee the next morning, is stop trying to matter to people who've decided you don't. Your daughter made her choice. Honor it. Disappear completely. That's giving up. No. That's giving yourself permission to become who you're supposed to be. You think this is ending, David? It's beginning. They just freed you from 25 years of servitude. She's my daughter. Was. Past tense. Mourn it like a death and move on. Because staying stuck in that identity, that's actual death. Sarah was blunter. You know what your mistake was? Thinking sacrifice equals love. You bled yourself dry for people who valued your blood less than their wine. Stop bleeding. Start building. Building what? Whatever rises from ashes. Phoenix Consulting has a ring to it. They were right. All of them. I'd spent 25 years defining myself through Emma's eyes. Provider. Protector. ATM. Now those eyes looked through me like glass. Time to shatter the glass. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I ordered good scotch. Not the cheap stuff I always bought to save money for Emma's fund. The real thing. I sat on my balcony, watching the city pulse with life, and made a decision. If I was nothing to her, then I was free to become anything to myself. The wedding fund glowed on my laptop screen. $20,000 of dreams that had turned to ash. Tomorrow, I'd close it. Use it for something else. Something that mattered to people who could still see me. The scotch burned warm. The city hummed its electric lullaby. And for the first time since that Tuesday afternoon, I didn't check my phone for Emma's call, because corpses don't dial the living. And I was finally ready to bury the father I'd been. What would rise was yet to be determined, but it wouldn't beg for invitations to its own life. It would build something better, something that couldn't be uninvited. The breaking was complete. Now came the becoming. The morning of Emma's wedding, I closed the account. $20,000 transferred to Phoenix Consulting LLC, registered just 3 days earlier. My phone sat silent on the kitchen counter. No pleading texts to Emma. No checking social media for wedding preparation glimpses. Just silence. Marcus had been right. Disappearing completely was freedom. I dressed in jeans and a polo, not the suit I'd saved for walking her down the aisle. That stayed in the closet, a relic from another life. By 9 a.m., while Emma was probably getting her hair done, I was meeting my first client. "They fired me 6 months ago," Janet Sullivan said, sliding documents across the coffee shop table. Said I was resistant to modern practices. Translation, I wouldn't falsify environmental reports. Similar story, 2 weeks ago. Wouldn't fire 200 people to boost quarterly numbers. Her eyes sharpened. "You're the director who..." "Former director. Now I help people like us. People terminated for having principles." She laughed bitterly. "Principles don't pay mortgages." "No, but wrongful termination settlements do. And companies pay well to avoid them." I showed her my research. 3 similar cases, all settled quietly, all substantial payouts. "We don't beg for our jobs back, Janet. We make them pay for taking them." By noon, while Emma was saying, "I do," I had 3 clients signed, each with ironclad cases, each angry enough to fight, each willing to pay 30% of whatever we recovered. My phone buzzed once, the Livestream link reminder. I deleted it without opening. Sarah Rodriguez called at 2 p.m. "How's the wedding?" "Whose wedding?" "Good man. Listen, I've got 5 referrals for you, all whistleblowers, all blacklisted, all needing someone who understands." By evening, while the Harringtons were toasting their new connection to my ex-daughter, I was building something they couldn't touch. 7 of us met in my apartment. All terminated within the last year. All for similar reasons. "We paid the integrity tax," Sarah said, raising her beer. "Now we collect interest." James Wright had brought his laptop. "I've been tracking wrongful terminations. There's a pattern. Same law firms, same tactics, same vulnerabilities." "Class action?" I asked. "Bigger. Media exposure. We don't just want settlements, we want changes." Marcus pulled up employment law on his tablet. "Companies will pay to make problems disappear, especially problems that could trigger federal investigations." This was what I'd missed all those years. The power of rejection, Emma's dismissal, the Harringtons' contempt, William's condescension. They'd all pushed me here, to this moment, this room full of fighters. Phoenix Consulting, I said. We rise from the ashes of their arrogance. Poetic, Janet smiled. Also profitable. I know 12 more people in our situation. We worked until 3 a.m. Business structure, fee agreements, target list. By the time wedding guests were stumbling home, we'd built the framework for something revolutionary. Sunday morning brought unexpected news. Marcus showed me his phone, grinning. David, you need to see this. Preston Harrington's father had been indicted. Federal investigation into pharmaceutical price fixing. The wedding hashtag Emma had created was filling with reporters' questions instead of honeymoon wishes. Karma? Janet asked. Justice, I corrected. Karma implies it's personal. This is just what happens when corrupt people get comfortable. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Mitchell? This is Amanda Chen from the Washington Post. I'm investigating the Harrington indictment and noticed your recent termination from Excelsior Corp. Similar practices to what the Harringtons are accused of. Would you comment? I looked around the room at my new partners, my new family, the ones who saw value in principles over profit. Yes, I said. I have quite a bit to say, but I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about those 200 families who still had jobs, about Janet and her environmental reports, about everyone in this room who'd paid the integrity tax. By Monday, while Emma's honeymoon was imploding in scandal, Phoenix Consulting had its first major media mention. The firm for the fired, former executives turned termination into triumph. We'd done more in 3 days than I'd accomplished in 25 years of sacrifice, because we weren't sacrificing anymore. We were building. And you can't uninvite someone from their own empire. The transformation was complete. The wedding I'd mourned missing had become the gift I never knew I needed. Their rejection had been my release. Now it was time to show them what the discarded could do. 6 months later, Emma stood in my office doorway. Designer clothes couldn't hide the hollowness in her eyes. The confident bride was gone. Dad, please, I need help. I looked up from the whistleblower contract I was reviewing. Do we have an appointment? Her face crumpled. Don't do this. I'm your daughter. My daughter uninvited me from her wedding via email. You must be confused. She sank into the chair. Preston left when his father's assets were frozen. The prenup. I lost everything. Mom and William are under investigation too. Insider trading with the Harringtons. I studied her. 6 months ago, this would have been my fantasy. Now, just calm clarity. There's a women's shelter on 5th Street. They offer financial counseling. I'm asking my father. That man died the day you told him to watch your wedding on Livestream. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't know why you were really fired. Mom said you were incompetent. The Harringtons are facing 20 years in prison. And you believed them over the man who sold his car for your textbooks. I was influenced. You were 25, old enough to remember who worked 3 jobs for your dance lessons. I pulled out a business card. Not mine. This colleague helps people recover from financial abuse. She's excellent. Emma stared at it. You're really turning me away? I'm no longer the man who bleeds himself dry for people who value his blood less than their wine. She stood slowly. At the door, she turned. What if I'd chosen differently that day at the country club? Then we'd be having a different conversation. But you didn't. Some choices can't be undone. No forgiveness? I forgave you months ago. For my peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean returning to old patterns. She left clutching the business card. I watched from my window as she walked to a modest sedan. No more luxury cars. Just consequences. My assistant knocked. Your 3 o'clock whistleblower is here. Send them in. I returned to work that mattered. Phoenix Consulting had helped 43 wrongfully terminated employees win settlements. Exposed 11 companies. Created a support network for corporate refugees. All because I'd been uninvited from a wedding that became a funeral. For the Harringtons' empire, William's schemes, Margaret's ambitions, and for the father I used to be. But from that funeral rose something better. A man who knew his worth wasn't measured in sacrifices but in standards. who understood love isn't proven by how much you bleed, but by how much you value your own blood. The phone rang. Another whistleblower. Another company about to learn what happens when you fire people for having integrity. Phoenix Consulting. We rise from the ashes. The sun set over the city. Somewhere, Emma was learning what I'd discovered 6 months ago. When you treat people as disposable, don't be surprised when they dispose of you in return. But I wasn't thinking about her. I was thinking about tomorrow's client, next week's testimony, next month's expansion. Because the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming someone who doesn't need it.